Mallory's not gonna make it.
Who's that?
Mallory?
So the word master.
So Elizabeth shows up. We can look for the word master.
Oh, Priscilla or Robert.
I don't know about Priscilla. Robert. I know it's here. Here's Elizabeth. 7 o'clock, buddy.
Sweet. It's gonna wait until they all.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Got it on the screen.
Oh, it's on,
Everything are remote.
you guys hear me? Sweet. All right. Well, starting the meeting now officially. It is 7 o'clock. And also, welcome guys to the first meeting of 2022. Woo! Oh yeah. Awesome. Well, please give yourself a pat on the back for showing up, guys. Thank you so much. Shows you guys that you are committed and also ready to start off the new year's with a bang. So it's going to be a great time and it's going to be a fun learning experience. So I am going to switch it over to our invitation for tonight, which will be hosted by Miss Tammy Adama. So please give her a warm welcome, Miss Tammy Adama.
Thank you, everyone. And I know for New Year's, people make resolutions and they do their best to stick by them. But I found a quote that I thought had a different twist on things. And it says, I hope that in this year to come, you make mistakes. Because if you're making mistakes, then you are making new things, trying new things, learning, living, pushing yourself, changing your world. You're doing things you've never done before. And more importantly, you're doing something. So that's my wish for you and all of us, and my wish for myself. Make new mistakes. Make glorious, amazing mistakes. Make mistakes nobody's ever made before. Don't freeze. Don't stop. Don't worry that it isn't good enough or it isn't perfect. Whatever it is, art, love, or work, or family, or life, whatever it is you're scared of doing, do it. Make your mistakes next year and forever. And that was by Neil Gaiman. And he's written books like the one I think you'll be most familiar with is Coraline. So I just thought that was a very appropriate quote because most times people don't do things because they're afraid they'll fail or they won't do it perfectly or won't do it right. And so how about starting a new year and take that pressure off yourself and just do it? And back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those words of encouragement. Yes, let's use our motivation for New Year's and start off or strive for success this year. So I'm going to switch it over to our president, who will give a few words. So please welcome Mr. David Marshall.
Thanks, Sean Marco. Thank you, sir. Happy New Year, all. I want to just say thank you all to Zach and all of you, everyone here for holding together over the past couple of weeks. I know I've been kind of MIA. It's been a rough couple of weeks, and you guys held it together as would be expected as in the beginning. You guys are all awesome, so just wanted to point that out. I sent an email out earlier. There is a international president, one of our international presidents will be holding a she likes to call it fireside chat, so check the email for that. It'll be today's the 4th, Thursday at 6:30 on Zoom, so that's in your inbox. It's all members. Everyone here should have that your inbox. And did I say Happy New Year? New Year. I really like your, Tammy, I really like your indication. I'd like to add the caveat, legal mistakes. Don't do anything that's gonna get you locked up. Let's not do that. Yeah, we don't wanna do that. So that's all I have. I think we're gonna have a fantastic event. And I'm going to pass the lectern back over to our Toastmaster of the evening so they can introduce our general evaluator. So, Toastmaster of the evening.
Well, once again, good evening, everybody. Fellow Toastmasters and friends, welcome to New Beginnings Toastmasters. I am Sean Markle, and I am honored to be your Toastmaster of the evening. And also, I already said this already, but welcome to 2022. Yeah. It's a new year, and it's a year of opportunity and excitement. And since it's a new year, I figured the most appropriate theme for today would be change. So I want to start off by reading a poem called New Year's by Catherine Pulsifer, who says, a time to say goodbye and a time to say hello. A time to bud farewell and a time to look forward. A time to let go and a time to learn new things. That is what happens when the new year rings in. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to think about it. Let it marinate in your head. Sweet, awesome. All right, so let's use this motivation and excitement we're feeling and strive for success this year. I believe in all of you guys and wish you the best this year. So anyways, let's move on to what our club meeting will consist of. So our club consists of 3 parts. The first part, which includes the prepared speech session. Today we will have 2 brave, courageous speakers giving out speeches, which will be Mr. Robert. He's on right there, and Miss Priscilla, if she shows up today. Hopefully she does. And the second portion of our meeting consists of table topics, which will be hosted by Mr. Andrew Bullock on the top left. Yeah. And our third and final portion will consist of evaluations, where each speaker will be given feedback on their speeches. Anyways, I can't run the whole show by myself, so I am going to call on my general evaluator and his helpers who will help me run the show. So please welcome to the lectern, Mr. Zachary Phillips.
Thank you so much, Sean Markle, for that great introduction. In some ways, it might be too good in the sense that you already outlined what I was about to say, the portions of the meeting, but, and also the helper roles. But, having said that, I will introduce all my helper roles. I can't do this alone, but basically what I'm going to do as a general evaluator, not only am I going to evaluate the entirety of the meeting, but I'm also going to evaluate the evaluators, or maybe in this case, just the evaluator. I don't know. But yeah, in terms of change, it's been a lot of things that changed in 2021. And hopefully, I know that 2022 will be the best year we've had in a very, very long time. Maybe my best years and our best year ever. Yeah, but I'm going to introduce a couple helper roles. First of all, I'm going to introduce Niv, who's our grammarian owl counter. Niv, would you unmute yourself and talk a little bit about what your roles will be for this evening?
Hello, everyone. Good evening and Happy New Year. Today, I'll be the grammarian and I'll be keeping a count on and how many times you'll be using that in a sentence. And at the end, I'll be giving you the count of that. So that's going to be my role for today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Niv, for that introduction. It's a great role. I personally enjoyed it because I used to be like the king of uhs. Maybe in 2022, I'll just be like the prince or like the duke or the it's just some sort of like lower ranking official on the king, the chart. So next up with the surprise change, From Mallory Myers, Miss Elizabeth Clare is going to talk about our word of the day and her listen up role.
Hi, everybody. The word for today is impetus. Can you see that? Is that backwards? It looks backwards to me. Is that frontwards or backwards?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's correct. Impetus is a driving force, an incentive, a stimulus, encouragement that results in increased activity. When Sean called me this morning, he gave me the impetus to show up at Toastmasters tonight. So I appreciate that impetus. And I hope this word gives you the impetus to carry on what our president said about it was Tammy, make mistakes. Tammy's invocation will give us the impetus to fearlessly make mistakes so we can learn something new. Mr. Toastmaster, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth Clare, for that great introduction of your roles. I wish I could think of some way to put impetus in here, as I normally do. I might get around to it later for my general evaluation of the meeting. Finally, Mr. Jake Bondi, will you come up here and talk a little bit about your role as timer?
You have the colors.
Dude.
Sorry, I got it a little late. Sorry, everyone. The time colors.
Here we go.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Jake Bondi, and I'll be the timekeeper for this evening. So basically, I'll be keeping track of everyone's time. And whenever I hold up the green card, that means you meet the qualifying time. When I hold up the yellow card, that's your target time. And whenever I hold up the red card, that is your max time. So all I have for today is Priscilla is speaker 1, which we'll see about that, I guess. Robert, speaker 2, and then David is the second evaluator.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And Lee, you are the other evaluator, right? Yes.
So Robert is a 10 to 12 minute speech, so at 10.
Oh, okay, 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, I'll take note of that. So that's basically it. Anybody have any questions? All righty, thank you.
That great introduction. Yes, Robert Riggs is going to give a 10 to 12 minute speech. 10 green, 11 yellow, 12 wrap it up. It'll probably be like 20 minutes, but we're gonna try our best. Robert and I'm gonna send him telepathic vibes to wrap it up at 12:30 exactly. All right, so without further ado, let me talk about the table topics master, or introduce our table topics master of the evening, Mr. Andrew Bullock. Let me hear from you a little bit about what your role is going to be about.
Good evening. I have the impetus for impromptu speaking this evening. And what that means is you will have an opportunity, those who do not have a major role in the meeting, to answer one of my wonderful questions for 1 to 2 minutes. You gotta wait for that green card to come up. Wait for that green card. Just keep swimming until you get to that green card. And once you answer the question, I might have a little feedback for you afterwards. We'll see how that turns out. Back to you, Mr. John.
Thank you so much, Andrew Bullock, for that introduction. And finally, let me hear from one of our evaluators, Mr. David Din. Would you talk a little bit about your evaluation? Even though I'm not seeing Priscilla on yet, would you talk a little bit about the evaluation process?
So I evaluate Priscilla and go over things that I've seen that could have been improved, and I look at the positive side of the speech, and I just give my reflections after her speech is done, and that's about it.
Good, yeah. Thank you so much for that, Mr. David Din. Yeah, it's a 2 to 3 minute evaluation, focusing on the positive, and so oftentimes given, well, in Toastmasters format, always supposed to be given a challenge of, how you can improve, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, just focus on the positive and just do a great job. All right, excuse me. Without further ado, I think I'm going to bring back up to the lectern our Toastmaster of the evening, Mr. Sean Markle, and he's going to introduce our speakers. Sean Markle.
Awesome. All right, so let's move on to the first portion of the meeting, which is consisting of prepared speeches, which will be hosted by, looks like just Robert. Yes, hosted by Robert. So let's just start off with Robert. So Robert is working on his Pathways Visionary Communication, which is his L1 project, Reflection on Your Path, which is 10 to 12 minutes. His speech title is Confucius Say, Learn as though you would never be able to master it. Our final speaker will be giving his final speech, A New Beginnings. Finally! In order to get a DTM, a Toastmaster must complete 2 paths, and Robert will do so by looking back at his current visionary communication path. Most of his path was completed during his year on the Appalachian Trail, and thus it's only fitting that he draws parallels between the 2 experiences. Please welcome to the lectern, the speaker that never ends. Yes, he goes on and on and on and on and on. My friends, someday he started speaking not knowing what it was, and now he keeps on speaking just because. Anyways, welcome to the lectern, Mr. Robert Riggs.
Confucius say, learn as though you would never be able to master it. It's an interesting quote, but truth be told, it's something that we should all embrace because we'll never be able to master anything. I may get really, really good at something. I may become amazing. I may become so good that everybody says, you know what? He's the GOAT. He's the guy. If you want to be amazing, be that guy. But you'll never be perfect. You'll never be the exact master of everything that you could master about it. You always need to be hungry. Truth be told, that's not just a belief or a philosophy about your life. That's also something that you have to share with others. Especially when it comes to a group goal, things will always evolve and change, and therefore nothing will ever be perfect. Instead, you have to envision what you're going to do, where you're going to go as a group. And if you're going to be a leader, or if even it's just your own life and you're trying to be the leader of your own life, and you say, I want to go here. Well, how do you go there? You first have to develop a vision of what you're going to do to get there. You know it's not going to be perfect, but you have to constantly try to master whatever it is that you're trying to do. During the last year and a half, I've gone through this path of visionary communication. And for me, it paralleled pretty well with going on the Appalachian Trail. As a matter of fact, I envisioned the Appalachian Trail a long time ago. It became a reality last year. I even got the nickname Fitty, and eventually it was Fitty Plans because every day I had daily visions of what would become of that day. And every day I was always disappointed. Truth be told, I wanted to have that vision. I wanted to move forward. I wanted to climb this mountain and then that mountain. And then I'm going to do 4,000 footers in one day. People do it all the time. Out over time, though, for me, it was no longer about my daily vision and how all of those accumulated to my long-term vision. Instead, my daily vision became my daily journey. And essentially, I started to adopt this philosophy that I was never going to be able to master it. Even if I reached that goal, even if I reached that mountaintop, eventually there's going to be another mountaintop for me to reach. I had to climb a mountain without a top. Once I realized this, I started to see truthfully not only how visionary communication correlated to how I communicated with other people, but also how it pertained to my leadership, it pertained to my life. And at the end of the day, I had to reflect on that over and over again. I can guarantee you, if I have to reflect on it, everybody at one point in their life will have to reflect on it. Everybody here knows Tom Brady, right? Does anybody here know which of the 7 rings is Tom Brady's favorite Super Bowl ring? Does anybody know? It's actually pretty simple. It's not this one, that one, that one, that one, that one, or that one, or that one. He always says it's the next one, the next one, the next one. The next ring is the one that he likes the most. He's not just trying to win. He's trying to master something constantly, knowing that he will never be perfect, and that's okay. He learned a long time ago, there's always going to be another mountain to climb. There's never, ever, ever, ever going to be a point where you're going to reach the top. Instead, you just have to go forward, whatever your goal may be. You have to envision your goal. You have to envision your journey. And then you have to seek the next vision. When I first started this path, it was about, I want to say, a year and a half ago. And it was roughly about the time that I started my New Beginnings Toastmasters presidency. I started with something called a vision board. Does anybody here remember what that was? We all came together as a group and we talked about what we wanted us to become, where we could go, what was our vision for the future. I picked this path because I wanted to learn how to bring everybody together and share my vision and our vision and collectively communicate that in a way that would transform me from a mentor to a motivator. It wasn't an easy path. It wasn't an easy thing to do because it took me out of my comfort zone. Over time, though, I discovered different tricks of the trade. With our vision board, I can tell you in the very beginning, I learned some really good things. Number one, that you have to share a vision, but if sharing a vision is pointless without a plan. As a matter of fact, a vision without a mission is the word that Toastmasters likes to use. Well, that's just a wish. So if you're going to have a vision for your life, that's great. You want to get emotionally excited. You want to embrace it. You want to feel it. You want it to be a part of who you are. Then you got to put the mission in there. That's when I tell you to envision your goal. I'm also telling you to envision your journey. You need to have a mission with your journey. And you need to embrace the present and the thought as you go along. If you're going to be a leader, by the way, and you have a certain vision you want to share, sometimes you might want to get buy-in from everybody around you. If I just started my vision board and I said, hey, this is what we're going to do, that might have gotten some traction. But in reality, if you're going to share a vision with a group, you need to get buy-in. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just come out and say, this is what I'm thinking, and this is where I think we can go, and this is how we're going to do it. And I'm going to motivate you to get there. Sometimes that works. Either way, your vision must always be clear. That's what I started with. You have to have a vision, you have to have a mission with your vision, and your vision better be clear. As time transformed, I discovered that there's a little more to this just talking thing. There is an actual component of this that works in real life. Truth be told, in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice. But in reality, there's a huge difference between theory and practice. And I'm going to tell you right now, 50% is pretty good. If you have a vision for your life, or you have a vision for your group, or whatever is going to happen, if you can get 50% of your goals completed, that's pretty good. It may not feel like it at the very end. It may not feel like it as you're going through with it. It may just feel like this constant struggle, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. And well, we were going to do this, but then this happened, and then that happened, and I envisioned this, but I didn't foresee that. And then, how am I going to communicate in a way that will allow everybody to get the impetus to motivate them to go above and beyond, and so that we can all become better together? How am I going to do that? Well, number one, the issues that I see with visions is that you can't see into the future, so you have to take time to reframe your vision. If you have a vision and you start going along the way, things will change. Your plan won't work out exactly the way you think it will. So you have to take time to reframe your vision. You need about 10 to 20% of your actual time to reframe things. If you're trying to do something in a period of a week, maybe about halfway through, you kind of see where you're at. Maybe near the end, you kind of see where you're at again. You take at least 1 or 2 times for maybe an hour or two to do a little project planning, do a little project management. You have to reframe your vision from time to time. Maybe this wasn't the best idea because we didn't see that. Number 2, you have to understand that people are people. Give people the freedom to be who they are. Priorities change. I started out saying, I'm going to be the president. All these things are going to happen. I'm going to get this person involved to do this person involved to do that. Sometimes the people's lives change. They move away. They get kids. They have to do all sorts of crazy things. Maybe their job changes. Maybe their boss is just putting so much pressure on them. They don't have time to do certain things. So priorities will change. You have to allow people the time and energy to have that change. Another thing that people will do is that some people will just never see it. You may have this great grand vision about how to put together an impromptu speech meeting. But some people will always struggle to see why it is that an impromptu speech can be beneficial to everybody. And maybe their doubting you is actually true. That's where that reframe thing comes back in mind. But even if you get to your goal at the end, whatever it may be, and it ends up being a smashing success, some people will still never see it. And finally, circumstances change and people hate change. You have to reframe and reconvince everybody often about what the vision is and where it's going, because things will change. If you're going to find a way to communicate this information, you have to remember one thing. What does Gene Simmons and William of Ockham have in common? Does anybody know? They both believe in the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. By the way, Gene Simmons is the main singer from KISS. Anybody wants to know? William Ockham is Occam's razor. See, I didn't keep it simple there. So I should have just said, you need to keep it simple. Communicate that constantly and you'll be successful. Now that I've gone through this journey, I've learned 3 main takeaways to help me think big about visionary communication and how to better help others. This is a form of communication that's great for wider audiences, but it has one significant flaw. If this is your main tool in your toolbox, you get what I like to call the district trio fallacy. Sometimes they like to envision and say how all these great things that we can do and politic their way to get something done. But if you don't pick people that share your vision and can help you implement it, nothing's going to happen. You have to have that mission. This, it can be your only tool in your toolbox. That's how a lot of politicians get elected. You need to remember that. This is a very useful tool, though, because you can emotionally empower people to move and go beyond what they ever thought possible. You have to use other tools to get them there, but that's the idea. Eventually, you will give them the impetus to move forward and higher to a mountain without a top. If you climb a mountain without a top, just make sure you communicate what the next top actually is. When things change, you will need to reframe and communicate in a simple manner. Your internal compass is the guide, but everything else out there is external. You have to remember to allow your communication to be amongst everybody and within yourself. This is your internal compass, but what you say to everybody is external. You must learn to blend the two together. If you can find a way to excite people so that they will learn as though they will never be able to master it, they will be able to share in your vision, and you will all become better. Mr. Toastmaster of the evening.
Wow, thank you so much for that impetus speech. That was really introspective and motivating. Every time I see your speech, I feel like I'm at a TED Talk meeting or something. It's just so good. Your speech was really loaded with a bunch of concepts like vision with mission, change, over planning, communication, and so much more. Overall, it was such an amazing speech, so thank you. So if we could just give him another round of applause. Can we get 1 minute on the clock, Mr. Timer? Sure.
By the way, for those who couldn't tell, my intro, I was actually using the song that never ends. I was blending it with the speaker that never ends. So I hope everybody got that parallel. This is the speaker that never ends.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I would call for a break, but it's only 7:33, so let's just keep the show on the road and move on to the next portion of our meeting. So the next portion of our meeting will consist of table topics, which will be hosted by Mr. Andrew Bullock. So
Point of
please
order. Can I get the timer's report for this?
Oh, right, yeah, sorry. Yeah, please come up to the lectern, Mrs. J. Fung, and record the findings.
So Robert got 1339 on speech.
Wow, just a minute over.
Yeah, it truly is a record. All right, well, let's move on to the second portion of the meeting, which will consist of table topics. So please welcome to the lectern, our table topics master of the evening, Mr. Andrew Bullock.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Table topics, the impromptu speaking portion. This is where we learn our job interview skills. We get to ask those random questions, and we just got to come up with the answer on the fly. Well, let's test your skills. My first victim is going to be Mr. David Marshall. Please come on up to the lectern. David, every year, at the end of the year, people come up with their New Year's resolutions. But a lot of people don't follow through on those New Year's resolutions. They usually give up within a certain amount of time. So, instead of asking you for your New Year's resolution, what is your New Year's give up? What are you going to give up on this year?
New Year's what?
Give up. What are you giving up this year?
What am I giving up this New Year? Ooh, stress. I don't want anymore. Anyone want some of mine? You want some of my stress? You sure? Everyone, no, everyone has enough. Unfortunately, that's part of life, stress. We have good stress and we have bad stress. Don't get rid of bad stress and add some good stress. Stress of coming and going as I want. The stress of vacationing and taking time off. The stress of sleeping in all morning and not knowing what I'm going to do that day. That is the. You want some of that stress? Would you like some? Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not there yet, but I could focus on doing what I need to do to get there someday, right? I can get there. I could retire at a nice early young age, and I don't know, what's an early age to retire? What do you think?
I mean, 40 according to Robert Riggs.
Oh, here we go. That's a good age. Let's retire early at the age of 40. Already past that, so that's not gonna happen. But maybe I can look to 60 or 65 and focus on that. In the meantime, I will still like to give up or manage the bad stress and reduce that. And that's what I want to give up. Back to you.
Thank you, David. He doesn't want to give up that stress. Stress is so stressful. You gotta let it go. All right. Thank you, David. Next victim is going to be Miss Tammy Adama. In the spirit of change, what major changes are you going to make this year to improve either your life or someone else's?
Good question. Change has been a constant in my life, and I would say there is some form of change most every day. Anything from the really little things to bigger things, like having to be flexible in my schedule because this comes up or that comes up, to bigger things, and like getting COVID or having to have a surgery, so you just have to go with the flow and do the best you can. And that's what I try to do every day, set it up so that I can achieve what I want to achieve and keep going and do the best I can and be there for other people and help them when I can. So change is change, There was a story someone told. They went to the bookstore and they had all this change they wanted to get rid of, so they decided to pay for the book with all these coins. And when they were giving the sales lady the coins, he said to her, "Change is change." And she says, "Oh, I don't have time for that. I'm not going there." And I thought, that's what most of us say. No, thank you. Change always sounds good, but there's a lot of things that have to, if you're going to make a change, let's say move somewhere, right? Then you're going to have all these things. I got to pack all these boxes. I've got to plan for it and do this and that. Just like Robert going to the Appalachian Trail, he had to do all these things to prepare for it. So even good change requires effort. So thank you, Mr. Table Topics.
Tammy. For those who don't know, I actually had to move recently. I moved about 2 months ago. Yeah, 2 months ago. Still unpacking. It took me 9 days to even move into this place, and here it is a month and a half later. I'm still unpacking. It'll probably take me another year. If that's my mom, it took 7 years to unpack. Talk about change, right? All right. So let's see who's next. Nev, you up for a question? All righty. So, in the spirit of the new year and change, what is a change that has affected you in recent years or recent months?
Thank you, EJ. So this year, the change that has affected me was change in job, moving from DC to Virginia Beach, and pretty much I'd say that because I lived in DC for 5 years, and then it's a big change for me, leaving my friends behind and coming here, settling down, and starting a new life. And yeah, making new friends here, that's a difficult one because if I think about school, you can go and make friends right away, but here I have to come out of my comfort zone. As Rob says, just come out of your comfort zone and then see what you can do. So trying to do that, and it's been working out well. So this is the biggest change that I would say that happened this year. Apart from that, like Tammy mentioned, we have been dodging bullets, and somehow like the bullet hit me, and then got COVID, down with COVID. So yeah, like I would say that those two are the two major changes in my life right now. Pretty much. That's it. Yep. Thanks for the topic.
All right, thank you, Nev. Very insightful. Change is not easy for any of us, but we just roll with the punches. Don't we? All right, Mr. Lee Walker, please come on up to the lectern. All right, Lee. So what's new for you this year? What are you gonna do? What's gonna make you exciting this year?
Mr. Tabletop Master, fellow Toastmasters, we begin a new year. What am I thinking about doing new, something to challenge myself or something to work on and improve myself?
Can you speak up a little bit?
Well, I really haven't thought too much about it. The holidays kind of came and went really quick, even New Year's, and I worked most of it. We had some parties at the restaurant I work at, and so I really haven't had a whole lot of time to think and plan out some things to work on this year. But in general, we always want to improve ourselves in some way, our communication here in Toastmasters, the way we speak, the way we work on our presentations, and just overall in life, we want to have improvements. We want better relationships, better friendships. We want to meet new people, take on different tasks or new tasks, exciting things. And I said, I haven't really come up with something I want to tackle or some kind of task or something I want to achieve or approach yet. So there's things I still got to take some time to think on and come up with a few things. But as I said earlier, there's always things in general that we always want to improve on year to year, day to day, and just as we move forward in life, as time goes on, we just want to keep moving forward, keep making progress, and better ourselves. Mr. Tabletop Master.
All right, thank you, Lee. It's always good to look forward and look within and see what's going to be better for us. Elizabeth Blair, are you up for a question? All right. Let me unmute you. Excellent. A lot of people say that things would be better if they could change the world. If you could change the world, what would you change? And why would it be better for everyone?
Oh my goodness, change the world. Certainly there are a lot of complaints about the way the world is going, or politics are going, or human beings are going. The way I would change the world, I think it has to be through education. But how to change education is really hard because, particularly in the United States, education is funded through local funds, and usually the only thing that local taxpayers get to vote against is the school budget. So that teachers are not paid what executives are paid, although their work is similar to what an executive would do: manage 25 to 30 people and make sure they're all learning something and doing what they need to do. Plus, if they're little kids, you're helping them blow their nose and tie their shoes. If funds for teachers were equal to the funds for engineers and business executives, you'd have the top grade of every college graduate. Those people would have a choice of what they want to do, and the natural teachers would go into teaching. Whereas right now, people need to earn a living to support a family, so they'll go into something that pays more than teaching. It's pretty disgusting that our education system is based on local taxpayers voting down the education budget. I've been in teaching for a long time, and I know most of the people I know who've been to school say, yeah, they had 3 or 4 good teachers out of the 18 or 20 teachers they've had. And those are the natural teachers. Maybe they don't need money, or they're married to someone who's paying the bills. But wouldn't it be great if every one of everyone's teacher was the top grade in intelligence, humanity, caring, loving education, and loving children? So, Mr. Table Topics Master, I would change the world through changing education.
Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Awesome. I always said one thing I wish I had learned in school was how to balance a checkbook. I mean, it's a useful skill. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. If we learn some of the basic things that we needed from life in school, it would make all those years we spent in school so much worth it. Anyway, our last but not least, we started with a David, we're going to end with a David. David Bill. All right. Last question. If you Sure thought. If you could change the way we perceive the things going on in the world today, what would be the one thing that you could change that would make everything make more sense as a whole?
If I could change, so the question is like, if I could change one thing
The way
that,
we perceive something in the world is one thing. And how would that perception make the world a better place?
um, I've lost for words. If we could change one thing that we perceive, I'm like thinking of like some complex answer, but maybe it's simple. Maybe it's like, no, perceive. Uh, mm, yeah, I'm like overcomplicating things. Like,
Okay, let me give you an example. So when we all go to the movies, everybody has their own opinion about that particular movie, right? But if you could change the way that we understand that movie so that it makes more sense to us, what would that change be? How would that improve us as a whole? Does that make more sense?
so like, I don't know, just like how you're
Okay.
breaking right now.
Yeah. All right. Let's give you a new question.
Maybe like different emotions, different perceptions. I don't know. If a movie is supposed to make you cry, if people don't cry, then they lost the perception to cry. I mean, I don't know, something like that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Give me 1 second. I'll give you a new question.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David. Thank you for the effort. Yeah, I kind of threw a curveball in there. Yes, Elizabeth, it was a difficult question. Right? It was good in concept, but I'll have to work on that one for next time. All right, Mr. Tyler, can I get a time report, please?
Sure. All right, thank you, AJ. So David Marshall came in at 130 on the dot. Tammy had 150. I want to apologize to you, Tammy, because I was so interested in what you had to say. I forgot to hold up the green card for a while, so you actually spoke 150, but you probably would have done better if I would have done my job. So sorry about that. Niv had 113. Lee was 134, and Elizabeth was 221. Thank you.
All right. With your ballots or the ballot online, you can vote for your favorite or the best table topic speaker.
Balance.
Fill that out.
Pens. Oh yeah, pens.
So I have over here. All those are in?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So this concludes the table topic session of the meeting. I will now turn the meeting or turn control of the lectern back over to Sean Marco, which is master of the meeting.
Everybody, thank you guys. Thank you to the people who participated in table topics. A shout out to you guys. Thank you guys for the creative and also whimsical answers. Really impressed, genuinely impressed by them. Anyways, let's move on to our third portion of the meeting, which will consist of evaluations. Our first evaluator is Mr. Lee Walker. So please give him a warm welcome. Lee Walker.
Robert was given his reflection on path presentation tonight as he's completed his path and pathways visionary communication. And for this project, you're to talk about any aspect of your experience going through the path, the different projects or presentations and different things you experience. And as we know, he did a hiking experience on the Appalachian Trail, and he tried to, he made a parallel to that is some challenges, his mission and his vision on going out hiking the trail. And then he came up with a mission and a vision to working through this path, giving different presentations and speeches. So for the evaluation, I think Robert spoke clearly. We could understand his words, sentences. I think he used good vocal variety when he was talking about different examples of a mission and visions. He would change his voice inflection some in his tone. He used good eye contact, looked good in the camera, or looked straight in the camera. I know I have challenges of that when we're on Zoom. I think he used good hand gestures. He was always moving his hands around. He may have not really moved around too much. I don't know how much space he had. He's on Zoom tonight. That's okay. But as he said, he did have good hand gestures. He was moving his hands and arms around a lot. The topic was good audience awareness. I think we all can relate to having a mission statement, a vision statement, and having goals. He appeared comfortable tonight. I didn't notice any nervousness. And the interest, again, it's all something we can relate to, having a mission, a vision, something we want to come up with, create, and go to aspire to. Something I think you may be able to kind of challenge Robert is he talked about, he gave examples like Tom Brady, the next one, and then priorities. Things change in life. People have different priorities. Things come up in their life and things change. So your plans change. Well, he may have talked a little bit about it. I just didn't really notice it, but talk about something that may have changed with your mission or vision while going through this path, or you made a parallel with hiking on the Appalachian Trail. I'm sure there was lots of things that changed the way where your mission or your vision, what your goal was on the Appalachian Trail. You did complete it, so that's the main overall main goal there is you completed it. But just some things that you encountered, some things that may have changed, and okay, I did all these plans, I put this all together, but then it just turned all upside down. Just for whatever reason, maybe weather, those type of things. And then, he did refer to like keeping it simple. So that may be one thing that you kind of changed over time. It's like, okay, I have this big grand plan here, and through time goes on, things are changing, things going, and all right, just need to narrow it down real simple. And sometimes that's probably the best way or easiest way for a mission or a vision is just to narrow it down and fine tune it to a point. So overall, I think Robert did a good job. He learned a lot about himself, a lot of challenges for himself going through this path with mission statements and vision statements. Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, thank you, Lee, for the informative speech. I will now switch it over to our general evaluator. Oh, okay, sorry. Can we get a timer before? Sure.
You spoke for 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Thank you.
Good job. All right, now I will officially transition it over to our general evaluator, who will give his evaluation of how the meeting ran. Please welcome to the lecture, Mr. Zach Phillips.
Thank you, Sean Markle. Before I do that, I am going to call on my helpers. First up, Ms. Niv, would you talk a little bit about our grammar and our ahs and ums, etc.
Thank you, Zach. So today we have about 7 people, and the first person that I've evaluated was Sean. Sean had 3 R's, and Tammy 0, Robert 0, David 1 AJ 0, David then had 1 R's and 2 hums, and Elizabeth Clay had only 1 Zach had 0, Jake had 0, Niv had 2 R's and 4 ums. Lee Walker had 6 R's and 2 ums. Yep. Back to yeah. Thank you.
Now that I've got, the perfect, well, I guess I know, but I've got the perfect, it's meeting adjourned, it's over, okay, sorry. Anyways, next up, Elizabeth Clare with our word of the day, impetus. I'm gonna say it, I'm not gonna say it in a sentence, but I'm gonna say it, and then our listen up.
Thank you. Thank you for the impetus to give you a report on the word impetus. I expected to hear it a lot more, and I heard it once from you, Zach, talking about using it, once from Andrew, once from Robert. Now, did someone else use it that I overlooked? Robert, you did use it?
We used it twice. I think.
Oh, and I only gave you credit for once. Okay, Robert twice, the winner. Mr. General Evaluator.
You have any questions for us?
Oh.
Those with your word master and listen up.
Okay, if you didn't have any questions.
No, nobody asked me to be listen up.
Okay.
Did you have a listen up, Master?
No.
I would have been happy.
All right, well, thank you so much, Elizabeth Clare, for that. Now I'm going to go on to my evaluation. First off, great first meeting of the year. I guess one of the things I need to work on, or just the meeting needs to work on in general, people, is that it was unclear as to the roles, specifically listen up. We did not cover all of the roles. Speaking of that, we also did not have a greeter. We did not have a snack master, and that is mostly up to the VPE, myself, and the Toastmaster of the evening to sort all of that out. And having said that, you did a great job as Toastmaster, first Toastmaster of the evening, or of this year, I guess I'd say. Yeah, you called some people and you texted some people. We sent out the agenda, I think, earlier than most people would do, which normally is Sunday, but I think you sent out what, Friday or something like that? Okay, yeah, so great job with that. What else? I think that, as Sergeant at Arms, you should prepare the room a little bit more, but you brought the tote and everything else. I brought my stuff a little late. I picked up coffee, so yeah. But yeah, just
For yourself.
for myself, highly caffeinated, which is a plus, I guess, overall. So all in all, great meeting. Short meeting. We're gonna wrap this up probably before 8:30 or so. But and then finally, evaluation. Great job, Lee. Ultimately, good evaluation. You might want to focus more on, or less on the content and more on just what is good, which you did a lot of what is good, and a challenge or two, and what you may want to work on. But having said that, great job on your evaluation. And unfortunately, the other speaker the other speaker did not show up, so therefore the other evaluator was not needed. But great job, David, for explaining your role or just what the evaluator does. So all in all, great first meeting of the year. So finally, I'm going to turn it over to the president, who's going to talk a little bit about announcements and just closing remarks. David Anthony Marshall.
Theme song. Happy New Year, first event of the new year, and I think we had a good time. We always have a good time when we come to the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So, some things coming up, we got club contests we got to talk about. That's coming up. So Zach and I will.
The main thing is to focus on who wants to be the chair.
What'd you say, Zach?
Go from there.
With the what contest?
Chair. Contest chair.
Contest chair. Sort of like organize, all the other roles, make sure that this is like a big, like, not big, but there's a guideline that gets sent out.
You get a lot
David
of
has
support.
that. But I mean, it's a really simple role if you make it simple, and it's really quick if you allow it to become quick. But having said that, you can get caught overthinking of it all. What I did last year.
We're talking about club contest chair, and so we'll discuss that and get moving on that. I think we're going to pull up, is Andrew there? I want to pull up, Andrew there?
I am here.
Want to pull up?
Our Vice President of Education has only made an agenda for today.
What?
So there's
Oh.
nothing for me to pull up at this time.
Okay. So what
We
do
could
you-
always have our administrator create an agenda for January 11th.
See, now you're asking too much. You want me to actually do work now?
Takes
Like,
all
what's wrong?
10
What's
seconds
wrong
to
with
do.
you?
10 seconds to press a button.
I got it. Just give me a second. I'm creating it now.
So Ned is speaker one, giving her icebreaker, right, Ned? Yes.
Icebreaker?
There you go.
Putting it off for like 2 months.
Uh-oh.
I mean, most of the excuses, maybe 90% of the excuses, maybe 100% of the excuses are valid. Don't get me wrong. You agreed next Tuesday, bing, bang, boom, icebreaker. Right? Shaking your head, yes.
Icebreaker. All right, I need more. David did his icebreaker. David, what's your next speech? What you gotta do next?
He wants to evaluate next week.
Okay,
Right.
evaluate.
I don't know about next week.
Well, the next meeting you attend, will you evaluate?
Yeah, okay. I was kind of prepared for evaluations, but
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna attend next week for whatever personal or whatever reasons, that's okay.
So
Here we go.
there's another speaker one, and we have David Jim.
I'll be the timer next week.
Robert Briggs is
Oh,
going to-
David, did you agree to be the evaluator next week?
I'm unsure at the moment.
Okay.
I'm unsure. I'll have to find out next week or sometime this week.
Any other volunteers for it?
See.
I'll be evaluator.
All right.
Who's that? David?
John Marco, evaluator.
Who's David? Sean Markle.
Sean's Markle. Evaluator. One evaluator.
It's been a long time since I've seen David Marshall or Elizabeth Clare give a speech.
David Marshall, you just have that icebreaker, so.
Yeah, I haven't had anything to say.
Oh, well, now's the perfect time to think of something.
You can talk about your time at the house in Canada.
Oh, that's easy to talk about.
There you go.
I also haven't heard Tammy speak in a while.
I have done a lot of speaking. You haven't been here to hear them.
Ooh.
Oh, but I've been here for 3 months. I haven't heard you speak in 3 months.
Oh, I've had a rough 3 months.
Tell me about it. Well, Last 2 months of 2021 was tough, huh?
I've had COVID, I've had surgery. Yeah, it's been kind of exciting. Not in a way I really would like it to be, but hey, it happens. You just do it.
So Elizabeth, do you think you might want to give a speech?
Yeah, my next speech is supposed to be on my project, and the project is either a podcast or a blog, and I got bogged down trying to figure out how to do that.
Well, if it's an elective, there's lots of stuff that you can do besides the podcast and the blog. You don't have to do one of those two projects.
You're asking me to think.
all I'm saying is there's like 10 or 15 different speeches you can do.
And commit.
Yeah.
I wanted to get started on my being semi-retired by forgetting the retired part and just doing some work. I could be general evaluator.
So.
There, see?
Good shoes.
Got out of making a speech. Thank you.
David, did you say that you were going to do your icebreaker?
No, I didn't.
I already did my icebreaker.
Oh,
David Marshall.
Oh, oopsie. I thought.
Well, while you're at it, David, you can always give your second speech.
Later.
You know what? I think it's time I spoke again.
Yes.
It's been a while. See if I remember how this thing works.
David, you could also do a purposefully impromptu icebreaker speech where you literally write the speech like 10 minutes beforehand. That's a challenge. I can't see his facial reaction.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I don't know what next week's gonna look like yet. So, let's see.
Do we have any volunteers for Toastmaster of the evening?
What's that?
We have a volunteer for Toastmaster of the evening.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Everybody? Going once, going twice.
Tammy, raise your hand.
Looks like Robert Rich just volunteered himself.
Huh.
I'm the timer.
I know. I was kidding.
Both.
I have no idea yet. I don't know what next week's gonna look like. This week worked out.
We got a couple of days. We'll find the Toastmaster evening.
Yeah, I'll get back. All right. So Top Golf.
If people want to go, I guess we can go.
Who's up for Top Golf?
You're in like Richmond, Robert. But why are you so excited? There is.
I can drive really, really fast.
It's true. It's so true.
There's a Richmond location. Like the strings, yeah.
Who's up for Top Golf? Who's going? Jake?
What? I'll be work at 6 in the morning.
Oh,
Oh, where am I?
yeah, you can stay up till 5 and still make it. Come on.
You gonna go, Sean, or no?
Sean's going.
Passing tonight. Sorry.
Lee Walker. What?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right, we'll run. We'll do a Top Golf run next week then. How's about that?
I'll still.
All right. So,
Wing King still has good deals on food on Tuesday nights.
I don't know. They no longer have karaoke, right?
No, ever since the girl that ran it passed away, they have not been able to get anything together for karaoke on Tuesdays.
When they start doing karaoke again, I'll definitely do some Wing King. I still might do it, but definitely will do it once the karaoke starts.
all right.
You look like a Brady's, Robert.
What?
Brady's and Brady. Yeah.
All confused.
Like right at the end. Anyways.
All right, so I guess we'll have a good night.